What We Do in the Shadows is an American mockumentary-style television series co-created by Jermaine, Clement and Taika Waititi, based on the 2014 New Zealand film of the same name, written and directed by Clement and Waititi. And of course, they both starred in it as well. Years ago, I watched the movie, and more recently, I binged-watched 4 seasons of the series, and now I've just wrapped up season 5. This show is a delightful mix of campy humor, shocking violence, and gory scenes, all while managing to tug at your heartstrings. In this video, we're looking at the costumes of the main ensemble cast. I've added bookmarks so you can skip ahead to your favorite characters at any time. But warning, there are spoilers for the show, so please come back after you've watched this series before you watch this costume breakdown and analysis. Amanda Neale and Laura Montgomery designed the costumes for this series. New Zealand costume designer Amanda Neale had a previous relationship with Jermaine, Clement and Taika Waititi. With a budget of about $12,000 US, she had worked with them on the original film, and then she went on to design the first 2 seasons of the show. Laura Montgomery, who is based out of my hometown of Toronto, Canada, where the show is currently shot, took over the reins from Neale in season 3 during the height of the pandemic. Now, I couldn't tell that there was a switch in costume designers. Montgomery had worked since season 1 as an assistant costume designer, and her transition looked effortless. In 2021, Montgomery earned dual Costume Designer Guild Award nominations for Excellence in Period Television for the episode The Wellness Center, and then Excellence in Sci-Fi Fantasy Television for the episode Gale. And then her achievements culminated in a 2022 Primetime Creative Arts Emmy Award win for Outstanding Fantasy Sci-Fi Costumes. Now, Montgomery was shocked to learn that she had won the Emmy and didn't think she needed to prepare a speech. She told BTL, "To be up against incredible shows like the Star Wars and the Marvels, it was an honor to be even included and recognized." She said in an interview with Below the Line News that designer Amanda Neale brought over from the movie the brilliant idea of vampires getting stuck in the period in which they were humans. Neale said, "When a vampire dies in the 18th century, the 14th century, they kind of get stuck in that element too. They have some nostalgia for that period, so I like to incorporate and weave some of those elements into the costume." During the transition in season 3, Montgomery was able to pull costumes from the character closets established by Neale. While the vampires are dressed in period-style clothing in the modern-day setting of Staten Island, New York, she didn't feel the need to create costumes that are period-correct, and there was an opportunity to add more contemporary pieces to the mix. She said, "It gives you flexibility because it's period, but it's a lot of periods, and it's also not period, so it's really fun to design." Montgomery discussed the creative process, emphasizing the need to consider the origins of the vampire's clothing. Some garments could have been taken from their victims, while others might have endured from their human lives before transformation. Additionally, it's plausible that they acquired certain items during their travels or received them as gifts over the centuries. As part of her design process, Amanda Neale paid close attention to selecting the right colors for the characters. The mockumentary style of the show, similar to This Is Spinal Tap, posed a challenge for Neale's team. They had to work with the existing lighting in both indoor and outdoor spaces. So, for instance, in the Vampire Mansion, where candles were the primary light source, Neale avoided using pure black and instead chose colors like plum or metallic gray for the vampire's clothing. She also added texture and flair through details like beading, appliques, and fabrics like brocade to give the costumes a touch of shimmer. When taking the reins over from Neale, Montgomery said, "One of the things I really wanted to do was to try to lighten up the colors and the tones and add more shiny fabrics and then just have a little bit of fun with it." She said that she encountered a common issue where things looked too dark when displayed on screens. To address this, she learned how to intensify the colors. For instance, a shade of green that seemed like a pale peacock could appear almost black on screen. Her goal was to adjust the color palette so that when people watched on their screens, they could see the textures, colors, and shine clearly. Now, one major challenge for the design team is the fast-paced nature of creating costumes for the series. Episodes are filmed in pairs, and often the team must build costumes from scratch because many of the looks can't be bought in stores. The wardrobe crew is relatively small for a show of this size. For instance, in the wedding episode of season 4, they had just 10 days to pull it off, despite the season already having a lot of costume work. In an interview with Golden Derby, Montgomery mentioned that although she couldn't remember the exact count, there were a substantial number of original costumes made. And then she praised the team's ability to create these numerous unique designs, highlighting the impressive work done by a single cutter and 3 sewers. As they concluded the project, there was a sense of pride and satisfaction among the team for their outstanding accomplishment. Now let's do a bit of a deeper dive into some of the characters. Colin Robinson, a unique character created for the series, is an energy vampire who resides in the mansion's basement and can walk in daylight. Now, he typically wears understated and dull colors, sticking to a beige palette that matches his unexciting personality. His fashion sense leans toward a simple business casual style, featuring well-tailored shirts and trousers with minimal patterns. Colin's choice of footwear include leather brogues, and he often completes his look with a tweed jacket or sweater vest, cardigan sweater, or a pullover sweater featuring an argyle or a checked pattern. Montgomery said that he dresses in kind of a 1930s American style, with vintage sweaters in direct contrast to Guillermo's striae-patterned 1990s sweaters. And Colin is the only member of the household who wears a necktie and occasionally a bow tie. With a rather fabulous capsule wardrobe, Colin also has a penchant for good quality vintage-looking jackets, coats, and hats. With a milestone birthday in season 3, Montgomery said, "I started looking at a lot of 40s tailoring. We got a lot of custom pieces done for him this season. I hope it won't be too noticeable a difference, but we tried to refine the tailoring a little bit." And then in season 4, the design team had quite the pivot with the arrival of baby Colin. With many in the household away on international travel, child Colin had to dress himself. Montgomery looked to her own children to find some inspiration and tried to think as a kid would. Her own children wear a lot of bathrobes, so child Colin often has a lot of bathrobes on over his clothes. "Clothes on backwards," she said. "There's one scene where he's wearing one of Laszlo's waistcoats. He has swim goggles around his neck. These are just things my own kids would do to make costumes or put together things that you wouldn't think of." At one point, child Colin outgrows his tail suit in a single night. For this gag, they created an adult size with child proportions. The costume designer said, "It was about fudging the proportions, being able to get his shoulders into it, but then making it proportionally even shorter so it looked like he had tried to squeeze himself into this too small tuxedo." Nandor the Relentless. Nandor, a 761-year-old Iranian vampire and former Ottoman Empire general, maintains a refined sense of style that suits his distinguished background. His clothing, always beautifully tailored, includes heavy brocades, velvets, leather, and fur, all adorned with intricate metal and leather fastenings. He complements his attire with tall leather boots, tall hats, and various cloaks. While he often dresses in the traditional black associated with vampires, Nandor prefers a warmer color palette, favoring shades like yellow ochre, sienna, burnt orange, and raw umber, with trimmings in metallic gold and bronze. Montgomery did a lot of research on Nandor's background, who is revealed to have come from the kingdom of Al-Qola Nudar, a fictional country sitting in modern-day southern Iran. But Nandor only learns during the series that his country no longer exists. To create costumes that were as authentic as possible, she visited the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto, where they currently have a great exhibition showcasing paintings of this Iranian epic poem. Montgomery noted that during those dynastic periods, kings began to develop an interest in depicting the poem, leading to the commissioning of numerous illustrated adaptations in the 1400s. She drew inspiration from these illustrations for Nandor's costumes, particularly the vibrant colors used. The costume designer expressed astonishment at the unique fashion choices and silhouettes depicted in those historical artworks. In my own interpretation, I imagine Nandor had his clothing custom made, possibly inspired by the artwork displayed in his home. It's likely his sturdy Ottoman steel armor, similar to pieces found in museums, survived over 7 centuries. In Season 4, Montgomery aimed to enhance Nandor's appearance for the Vampiric Council. They repurposed a cape from Season 1 and added a tall black hat inspired by the paintings she encountered during her research. This hat choice gave Nandor a distinctive historical flair. Now, one of Nandor's showstopper costumes is his Groomzilla look when he gets married in Season 4. Montgomery tells Golden Derby he needed a very embellished and ostentatious wedding costume, so we put a lot of resources into hand-beating his costume like a mantelpiece for him. Another memorable Nandor costume that Montgomery is very proud of and that caused a positive reaction on Twitter are his authentically accurate Iranian workout pants that he wears to the gym. Montgomery said, "They're from this Persian sport called zarkhane or palavani. I knew I wanted to get these pants, and we have a couple of Iranian people on our costume team." She adds, "I found the pants from the maker who makes them custom in Tehran. We got them made, and then she had a friend who was in Tehran and would be coming to Toronto, so the friend picked them up and brought them over." Guillermo de la Cruz. Guillermo is Nandor's familiar, who desperately wants to be turned into a vampire. Guillermo's distinct look originated during Harvey Guillen's audition. He wanted to appear older, as the character was meant to be a decade senior to his actual age. To achieve this, Harvey drew inspiration from the Spanish director Guillermo del Toro, who shared the same first name as the character. During the audition, Harvey changed his appearance by parting his wavy black hair down the center, wearing Harry Potter-style glasses with the lenses popped out, and he sported an 80s-inspired sweater. This unique look impressed Jerome, Taika, and the casting director so much that Taika insisted on keeping this look for Nandor's familiar. As a result, vintage sweaters became a signature part of Guillermo's wardrobe throughout the series. Many of Guillermo's crewneck and cardigan sweaters appear to be Coogee sweaters, a fashion brand founded in Australia in 1969 with the kaleidoscopic patterned sweaters popularized in the US in the 1990s. In pop culture, it's often referred to as the Cosby sweater. Guillermo's sweaters in Season 1 were vintage pieces, but the production required repeats for his arc in Season 2. Neale said because Guillermo had become such a fashion icon, they were able to find and purchase commercially available sweaters in his style, buying multiple sweaters, sample dyeing them to different colors in his palette to complement Nandor, but also said that they would have enough for Guillermo's stunt doubles. While his wool sweaters kept actor Harvey Guillen warm during some of the exterior scenes, he's actually allergic to wool. So the wardrobe team made sure that he always was protected with 2 layers under his sweater. Neale created a trench for Guillermo with a cape feature that was a nod to Van Helsing's Inverness-style greatcoat from the 18th century. Montgomery took it a step further by adding a leather waistcoat. She said, "We're trying to keep him that soft and cuddly and Guillermo, but at the same time, he is the bodyguard now. So he has a leather waistcoat with his bandolier of detachable stakes." Nadja is a 500-year-old Greek Romany vampire who is married to Laszlo. She is a welcome addition to the series since the movie featured only male flatmates. While Nadja's silhouette is largely 19th century, with fitted bodices and full diaphanous skirts with flounces and layers of ruffles and lace, there is also plenty of influence from the 20th and 21st century as well. Montgomery said, "We have the freedom to use elements from the 80s. They've lived through all the decades. We can say, oh, they picked up this piece when they were clubbing in the 90s, or they picked up something, they got all these collected pieces." One thing you won't see on any other character are her large puff sleeves. This is something particular to Nadja and the doll possessed with her spirit. For Nadja's vampiric council look in Season 3, Montgomery said, "It was really fun to blow out the shoulders and make it special." Nadja's showstopper costume is the tartan gown that she wears after returning from England, inspired by Victorian traveling outfits and contemporary British designers such as Vivienne Westwood and the late Alexander McQueen. Montgomery said, "Short of coming back wearing a Union Jack, how does your clothing say, 'I spent the summer in London'?" But not wanting to be too on the nose, although a gown made from the United Kingdom's national flag would be cool too, Montgomery took inspiration from McQueen's Highland Rape Fall-Winter 1995 collection. The designer said the sash was an added nod to royalty or a coronation. With the help of a fashion broker in New York, they located a nearly perfect red and black tartan fabric. Before cutting the dresses, the team added a thin gold ribbon for that finishing touch. They also scaled down the tartan fabric to doll size and added some gold stitching to match the full-size version. Now, there were some challenges in that they had to make 2 outfits for Nadja because when she first comes in, she falls through the floor into the pool. So it had to be something that could be rigged for the stunt to fall and also get soaking wet. Montgomery had to think about what would happen to the dress when Nadja was in the water. She said, "I wanted it to kind of bubble out like a jellyfish. I wanted it to look nice sitting on the water." In Season 4, Nadja opens a nightclub and rocks some truly wild club outfits. Montgomery found inspiration in Drag Race and New York nightlife legend Suzanne Bartsch for these bold looks. She said, "She was a big inspiration for me because her outfits are incredible, with so much sculpture and interest and really fashion-forward looks." Nadja's opening night outfit departed from her typical Victorian style, adopting a more 90s clubwear vibe. The designer said, "For opening night, we built this skin-tight velvet catsuit that laces up the front. I gave her a cape to go over the top, which felt very master of ceremonies with the presence of an opening night hostess. The cape had her signature puff sleeves and then a really full dramatic back. Added to this are some long red gloves with glued-on painted black nails, a double-wrap rhinestone belt, and 2 mini sparkly top hats to complete the look." Leslie Laszlo Cravensworth. Laszlo, a 310-year-old British nobleman vampire, favors a fashion sense that harkens back to the 18th and 19th centuries. His wardrobe includes frock coats, tailcoats, waistcoats, high-waisted pants, and scoop-collared shirts with billowy sleeves, often embellished with lace details. He's also known for his collection of hats, notably the Bad Luck Witch Skin hat. Always the power couple, Laszlo and Nadja often dress in coordinating fabrics. For instance, Laszlo's waistcoat fabric will match Nadja's dress, like this silver brocade or black beaded outfit. In Season 4, he even added red strands to his hair to sync with Nadja's hairstyle. To exude his playboy persona, Laszlo sports various colored neck scarves, occasionally replacing his typical cravat. His shirts are also bedecked with plenty of bling, further accentuating his flamboyant style. A standout moment for Laszlo is his comical transformation into his alter ego character, Jackie Daytona. Although he retains most of the elements from his Victorian-era costumes, the addition of dark denim black jeans and a toothpick, along with folding down his collar, magically turn him into the ordinary human bartender, Jackie Daytona. In a video interview, Neale revealed that Laszlo's purple and black leather jacket served as the inspiration for the Bucks color palette. Furthermore, his distinctive leather cowboy hat was sourced from Vintage Soul Geek in Hamilton. I've heard word that we can expect a season 6 sometime in 2024 if the strikes don't delay it. I'm really looking forward to it. If you enjoy this content, consider subscribing. Thank you for spending time with me. I'll see you in the next video.